for a month's supply, which my parents cannot afford. Because of the cost, I don't take as much as I need to take, and my health is suffering because of it. Please help everyone else who is dying because they can't afford health care. I don't want to die at 18. End of quote. This is a letter from a citizen of the United States of America. Yet 50 miles away from my home in Vermont, many of the same medications manufactured by the same companies in the same factories are available for a fraction of the price. And we have a list of some of them right here. I don't have to go through them all. Bottom line is, same exact medicine made in the same exact factory by the same exact company sells in Canada and in fact all over the world at substantially lower prices than they are sold in the United States. And by the way, Canada does not have some of the lowest prices in the world. In fact, it has some of the highest prices. But compared to us, they look pretty good. And that is why I'm very proud to join with Senators Booker, Casey, King, and Heinrich, and Congressman Cummings and Doggett, and a total now of 19 members of the United States Senate. We just introduced this bill the other day. We now have 19 co-sponsors to introduce this critical legislation, which will lower the cost of prescription drugs in this country. I won't go into all of the details, but the bottom line is what we have introduced with the help of these colleagues is legislation which makes certain that the medicine coming into this country is 100% safe, and it is going to be significantly lower cost than what we now have to pay. So with that, I want to again thank my colleagues for their working together on this issue. And let me bring up Congressman Elijah Cummings, who has been a real champion in the House in the fight for lower-cost prescription drugs. Elijah?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Sanders. And I want to thank you, Senator Sanders, for your leadership, and certainly to all my colleagues from the Senate and the House for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today because hardworking Americans are literally sick and tired of facing sticker shock every time they go to the drugstore with absolutely no end in sight. By the way, this is a bipartisan issue. A recent poll issued by the Kaiser Family Foundation shows that a majority of Americans, including Democrats, Republicans, and independents, believe that lowering prescription drug prices must be a top priority for this Congress. So that is exactly what we're trying to do here today. We're attacking this problem by focusing on ideas that even President Trump says he supports. Ideas like allowing for the responsible importation of safe and affordable drugs, and making sure that Medicare is finally allowed to negotiate for lower drug prices. The President's support for these ideas has been so clear that I'm tempted to introduce a bill in the House named the Donald Trump Drug Affordability Act. I'm sure he would like that. After he was elected president, President Trump said this: "I'm going to bring down drug prices." That's his quote, not mine. "I'm going to bring down drug prices." He also warned that the pharmaceutical industry is, quote, "getting away with murder," end of quote. When I met with him briefly during his inauguration, he said the same thing again. Words are nice, but people need relief. So you know what? He was absolutely right. The drug industry is getting away with murder. So if the President if he really means what he says, he will support our efforts and he will encourage his Republican colleagues to do the same. It is true that pharma has a lot of lobbyists and a lot of power. But we have something even more powerful. We have the support of the American people. They're calling on us to act, and we must heed their calls. As I listened to Senator Sanders, I could not help but think about the people in my district. One man said he felt so often like when he went to the drugstore, he had a gun, there was a gun to his head, and saying either pay up or die. Pay up or die. Ladies and gentlemen, we're better than that. This is the United States of America in 2017. We're better than that. and to ignore them would be legislative malpractice. American families have had enough. They deserve better, and an overwhelming majority of our nation agrees that the time for action is now here. And so I want to thank my colleagues again, and we are moving forward, and I'm looking forward to hearing, hopefully, what the President has to say tonight about this crucial issue that confronts almost every single American in our country. With that,
Thank you very much. Senator Casey?
Thanks very much. I want to thank my Senate colleagues who have worked on this with us together, Senator Sanders, of course, Senator Booker. I know Senator Heinrich is here with us today and working with us, as well as Senator King. If I missed someone, I'll amend that. And I'm grateful for the work of the House as well, Representative Cummings and Representative Doggett. Let me start with a statement that I think maybe goes without saying, but I think it encapsulates where we are. I've been across Pennsylvania for years, and I've heard about the concerns that seniors have, that middle-class families have, but never more so than in the last couple of months and weeks as people confront the challenge of just staying healthy every day. This affects families of all kinds all across a state like ours. And this effort, and this is not easy to do, to sit down and write complicated, difficult legislation, but we've been working on it for a good while now. I'm grateful to have a bill. I'm just going to walk through some of the mechanics of it, just so people are clear about some terminology. First and foremost, the bill requires foreign sellers to register with the FDA and agree to meet specific criteria, such as only purchasing drugs from FDA-inspected manufacturers or from other certified foreign sellers. Second, all patients seeking to purchase drugs for importation must provide a valid prescription to a licensed pharmacy in Canada, and we give the FDA clear authority to shut down bad actors. Fourth, access to prescription drugs for many families is not a subject that should keep them up at night. It's not a subject that should literally break the bank or break their bank when it comes to what happens to those families. I also think, as both Senator Sanders and Representative Cummings said, that there's bipartisan support for this kind of legislation, but it's critically important that we make sure that we do this as one people, that we come together on an urgent issue for the American people. They might be divided on a whole range of issues, but I think there's broad consensus to finally do something about an issue which Senator Sanders has been working on for a lot of years. He and I were elected the same year. We had a vote on this issue in 2007, so I've been voting on this issue all these years. But we've never reached the point we're at now, where we have a bill that has worked through a lot of difficult issues and has listened to a lot of good input before we have a bill introduced. And the number of senators on this bill to date is emblematic of that broad support. So I think the next speaker is Representative Doggett.
Thank you, Senator. And a salute to you, the Senator, to Representative Cummings, to each of our colleagues for their commitment on this important issue. In short, prescription price gouging has just gotten way out of control, and it is threatening the health and the financial security of millions of Americans. This outrageous overpricing is not limited to one pharmaceutical company or one class or type of drugs. It is pervasive throughout the industry. All of us want this industry to earn sufficient profits to be able to innovate and to cure dread diseases before any of us get them. I think that's the feeling of everyone. But it does not take the kind of outrageous price gouging that has been occurring to provide sufficient funds for innovation. All this bill is about is a modest step to restore competition in a free enterprise system, to let competing forces work to try to bring down the prices on some of these drugs. And whether it is EpiPen or insulin, whether it is cancer or hepatitis C, families and taxpayers are bearing right now the impact of what are government-approved monopoly prices. And that's why we have the problem we have today. Now, President Trump promised to bring down drug prices, to use his words, big league. And although he's declared that the pharmaceutical industry, as Representative Cummings said, is getting away with murder and has properly described astronomical drug costs and said that for Medicare and for Medicaid, we have to get the prices down, way down. His first meeting, closed-door meeting, one of the very first at the White House, was with the representatives of Big Pharma. And he came out of that meeting, from my perspective, getting this problem exactly backwards, because he talked about the prices being too high in other parts of the world. I mean, too low in other parts of the world. The problem is not that they're too low in Canada or in Finland. The problem is they're too high in America, and that you can go right across the border.
Last 4 years, I've been hospitalized 20 times for very painful and damaging complications related to my pancreas. I have to take many medications just to avoid being in the emergency room once a week. One of my medications is around $1,000 for a month's supply, which my parents cannot afford. Because of the cost, I don't take as much as I need to take, and my health is suffering because of it. Please help everyone else who is dying because they can't afford health care. I don't want to die at 18. End of quote. This is a letter from a citizen of the United States of America. Yet 50 miles away from my home in Vermont, many of the same medications manufactured by the same companies in the same factories are available for a fraction of the price. And we have a list of some of them right here. I don't have to go through them all. Bottom line is, same exact medicine made in the same exact factory by the same exact company sells in Canada and in fact all over the world at substantially lower prices than they are sold in the United States. And by the way, Canada does not have some of the lowest prices in the world. In fact, it has some of the highest prices. But compared to us, they look pretty good. And that is why I'm very proud to join with Senators Booker, Casey, King, and Heinrich, and Congressman Cummings and Doggett, and a total now of 19 members of the United States Senate. We just introduced this bill the other day. We now have 19